The bridge of the ISS Defiance was a study in controlled chaos. Holographic displays flickered with 1,000 shades of red, each one representing another segment of humanity's last defensive perimeter. Captain Maya Chen stood motionless, her cybernetic left eye cycling through tactical overlays faster than any human could consciously process. Outside the ship's reinforced hull, the Xarkan fleet stretched beyond visual comprehension. Millions of alien vessels formed a perfect spherical cage around the solar system, a mathematically precise prison designed to crush humanity's final resistance. The sheer scale was almost beautiful in its brutality. Crystalline ships of impossible geometry, energy weapons that could vaporize entire continents, quantum disruption fields that could unravel molecular bonds. "Broadcast incoming," Lieutenant Ramirez called out, his voice tight with a tension that bordered on hysteria. The main view screen erupted with the image of the Xarkan Primarch, a being of pure energy barely contained within a translucent exoskeleton. Its voice was a symphony of mathematical precision, each word calculated to maximum psychological impact. "Humanity, your resistance ends now. You have precisely 72 standard galactic cycles to surrender unconditionally. Resistance means complete extermination. Your species will be reduced to data patterns, your genetic memory archived as a cautionary tale for future civilizations." Maya's fingers traced the quantum encryption chip embedded behind her ear, a device so advanced it wasn't just technology, but a living bridge between human consciousness and computational potential. No one on the bridge knew the full extent of what that chip represented. Not even her second-in-command understood the generations of preparation that had led to this moment. The chip pulsed. Microscopic quantum entanglement protocols began spreading through every human communication channel, invisible to the Xarkan monitoring systems. Each pulse was a seed, a potential that would bloom at the precisely calculated moment. Ramirez looked up, confusion crossing his face. "Captain, our communication systems, they're doing something strange." "I know," Maya responded, her voice a razor's edge of calm. The Xarkan Ultimatum continued, a mathematically perfect threat that had already conquered hundreds of species across multiple galaxies. They expected surrender, capitulation, or futile resistance that would end in immediate destruction. They did not understand humanity. Generations of preparation had led to this moment. While the Xarkan saw a species cornered, they failed to comprehend that humans were most dangerous when they appeared most vulnerable. The quantum chip behind Maya's ear was more than a communication device. It was the first node of a network that would redefine the very concept of warfare, of survival, of species-level adaptation. "Acknowledge receipt of transmission," that Xarkan Primarch demanded. Maya's lips curled into the slightest smile. "Acknowledge," she responded, knowing that the single word carried far more than the Xarkan could possibly understand. The real game was just beginning. The Europa research station looked like a mechanical ghost from the outside. A sprawling network of crystalline structures and impossible geometries that seemed to defy the very laws of physics. Inside, Dr. Akira Nakamura moved with a predatory grace that betrayed nothing of the revolution brewing beneath his fingertips. Each of his movements created ripples across holographic interfaces that most would mistake for standard research displays. In reality, every touch was a surgical strike against the most fundamental assumptions of interstellar warfare. Nakamura wasn't just a scientist. He was an architect of humanity's ultimate survival strategy. Quantum cascade at 87.3% synchronization, a synthesized voice murmured from an interface beside him. Most would hear nothing more than a standard system report. Nakamura heard the heartbeat of humanity's most dangerous weapon. The station's true purpose was hidden in plain sight. What appeared to be a standard xenobiology research facility was actually the nerve center of humanity's most audacious plan. Each computer terminal was a potential weapon, each data stream a battlefield waiting to be engaged. Nakamura's left hand, a marvel of biosynthetic engineering that was more advanced computational matrix than organic tissue, traced complex patterns across multiple holographic displays. Streams of data cascaded around him like digital waterfalls, each stream containing layers of encrypted information that would make the most advanced alien cryptography look like a child's puzzle. A holographic projection of the Kharkan fleet materialized before him, constantly shifting and updating. But this wasn't just a map. It was a living, breathing strategic ecosystem that Nakamura and his team had been cultivating for generations. Every movement of the alien vessels was not just being tracked, but was being subtly manipulated. Dr. Nakamura, a voice called from behind him. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, his co-lead on the project, approached with a datapad that seemed to shimmer with its own internal light. The quantum entanglement protocols are reaching critical synchronization. Nakamura didn't turn. His eyes never left the holographic display. We've been preparing for this moment for 3 generations. The XR can believe they understand pattern recognition, computational strategy. They have no idea what's coming. The true brilliance of their plan wasn't in raw computational power or advanced weaponry. It was in understanding the fundamental nature of information itself. Humanity had spent decades studying not just how the XR fought, but how they thought. Every piece of data was a potential weapon. Every communication channel a possible Trojan horse. Rodriguez's hand brushed against a seemingly innocuous control panel. A series of quantum encryption keys began to dance across the displays, each one a potential pathway of destruction, each one carefully crafted to exploit the most minute psychological vulnerabilities of the alien collective. "They think they've cornered us," Nakamura muttered, a rare smile crossing his typically stoic features. "They have no concept of what cornered really means to our species." The Europa research station continued its quiet work, looking for all the world like a simple scientific outpost. But within its walls, the most sophisticated information warfare in galactic history was taking its first, nearly imperceptible breaths. Humanity was about to redefine the very concept of resistance. The first Kharkan strike came like a biblical judgment, a concentrated burst of quantum disruptive energy that should have obliterated the human outpost near Jupiter's magnetic interference zone. Millions of alien weapons converged on a single point, creating an explosion so intense it momentarily outshone the gas giant itself. Commander Zarkzak of the Kharkan 17th Quantum Suppression Fleet watched with clinical detachment as their targeting systems confirmed total annihilation. His crystalline form shifted with what might have been satisfaction in a more emotional species, another human stronghold reduced to atomic dust. "Target neutralized," his communication officer reported, the words translated through layers of quantum linguistic algorithms designed to strip away any emotional nuance. But something was wrong. As the massive energy discharge began to dissipate, the holographic remains of the destroyed station started to shift. Not like standard radiation dispersion. These fragments moved with purpose, with intention. The station wasn't destroyed. It was transforming. Hidden within the initial attack was humanity's most dangerous weapon, information itself. Each fragment of the seemingly destroyed outpost was a quantum-encrypted data package, a living algorithm designed to infiltrate the most secure communication networks of the Kharkan collective. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the Europa research station, her fingers dancing across interfaces that looked more like living neural networks than standard computer systems. "Cascade initiation at 62%, she murmured, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what was unfolding. The destroyed station was a trap within a trap. What appeared to be a critical human outpost was actually an elaborate quantum decoy, its very destruction triggering a cascading algorithm that began to burrow into the Kharkan fleet's most secure communication networks. Commander Zarkzak's satisfaction turned to confusion as warning systems began to light up across his command deck. Quantum anomalies started appearing, not just in their immediate sensor range, but across multiple communication bands simultaneously. "Impossible," his lead technician whispered, a rare break in the clinical Kharkan communication protocol. Each piece of destroyed equipment was becoming a Trojan horse. The station's destruction wasn't a defeat, it was a calculated invasion. Microscopic quantum entanglement nodes began to spread through the alien fleet systems, creating a network that was part computer, part living organism. Humanity had weaponized information itself. The X-Archon had conquered hundreds of civilizations by understanding their communication systems, by breaking down their networks of cooperation. They believed information was a tool to be controlled, analyzed, dominated. They did not understand that for humans, information was alive. It was a weapon. It was a living thing that could adapt, transform, survive. On the bridge of the ISS Defiance, Captain Maya Chen watched the first stage of their plan unfold. The quantum chip behind her ear pulsed in sync with the cascading algorithms spreading through the alien fleet. "First wave complete," she said quietly to Lieutenant Ramirez. They never saw us coming. The sacrificial outpost continued to dissolve, its remnants spreading like a digital infection through the supposedly impenetrable Karkan fleet. What had looked like humanity's destruction was actually the first breath of their most dangerous weapon. The real invasion was just beginning. The first psychological strike came without warning, a precision-guided missile of pure information that would make traditional weapons look like primitive rocks. Dr. Rodriguez's fingers hovered over a holographic interface that pulsed with an almost living energy. Each touch was a surgical strike into the collective consciousness of the Karkan Alliance. The quantum communication network they had built was more than a technological marvel. It was a weaponized understanding of alien psychology. "Target acquisition complete," she murmured, her voice a calm counterpoint to the chaos about to unfold. Across the Karkan fleet, communication channels began to flood with carefully crafted data packages. To an outside observer, they might have appeared as random transmissions, but each packet was a precision-engineered psychological weapon. For the silicon-based Krellix warriors, the transmission contained meticulously reconstructed historical records revealing a suppressed genocide in their own past, committed by their current fleet commanders. The data was irrefutable, sourced from quantum-encrypted archives that bypassed every defensive firewall. The energy-based Neurotalk received transmissions that exposed the fatal flaws in their species' most sacred philosophical constructs, mathematical proofs that unraveled centuries of belief in their own cultural superiority. Each revelation was backed by levels of scientific complexity that would take years to fully comprehend. The methane-breathing Vornak intercepted communications that demonstrated how their entire civilization's technological progress had been subtly manipulated by an ancient, forgotten species, their proudest achievements revealed as nothing more than carefully guided experiments. Commander Zarkzak watched in growing horror as his unified fleet began to disintegrate from within. The X-Archon Collective had conquered hundreds of civilizations through their ability to understand and exploit psychological weaknesses. They had never considered that humans might turn that very technique against them with terrifying precision. Communication integrity compromised. His systems reported, the clinical tone unable to mask the underlying panic. Each alien species received a perfectly crafted communication designed to exploit their deepest cultural fears, historical traumas, and philosophical vulnerabilities. The quantum network worked like a living organism, adapting in real time to the psychological responses it generated. Entire squadrons began to turn on each other. Trust, the fundamental currency of the X-Archon Collective, began to dissolve faster than antimatter in a quantum singularity. Captain Maya Chen watched the cascading effect from the bridge of the ISS Defiance. The quantum chip behind her ear pulsed in synchronization with the psychological warfare network. This wasn't just an attack. It was a complete deconstruction of an entire galactic power structure. They spent generations studying how to conquer, Maya said quietly to Lieutenant Ramirez, but they never understood the most important lesson. Humanity doesn't just fight. We adapt. We understand. The unified alien fleet that had seemed invincible just hours ago was now a collapsing house of cards. Each carefully placed informational trigger was causing chain reactions of doubt, fear, and internal conflict. Humanity had weaponized understanding itself, and the real battle was just beginning. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the most dangerous network humanity had ever conceived. The quantum-entangled antimatter containment systems looked deceptively simple, a series of intricate crystalline nodes positioned strategically throughout the solar system. Each node was a weapon capable of releasing energy that could obliterate entire star systems with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. Final synchronization phase initiating, she announced, her voice cutting through the low hum of computational power that filled the Europa Research Station's primary control room. The network was more than a defensive system. It was a living, thinking organism that anticipated and countered alien moves before they could be conceived. Quantum entanglement allowed for instantaneous communication between nodes, creating a defensive grid that defied every known principle of warfare. Commander Zarkzak of the Karakun fleet realized too late that they hadn't trapped humanity. Humanity had been trapping them. The quantum network began to manifest in ways that defied computational logic. It wasn't just predicting potential attacks. It was actively manipulating the very fabric of strategic possibility. Each antimatter containment system was a universe unto itself. Microscopic black hole generators stood ready, quantum-locked into a state of potentiality that could be activated faster than thought. The nodes communicated in a language beyond encryption, a pure mathematical dialogue that would drive most computational systems to catastrophic failure. Targeting matrices are impossible, a Xarkun tactical officer stammered, his crystalline form flickering with uncertainty. The human defense network was reading their intentions before they could form them, redirecting potential attack vectors with a fluidity that bordered on prescience. On the bridge of the ISS Defiance, Captain Maya Chen watched the quantum network unfold. The chip behind her ear pulsed in synchronization with millions of computational nodes spread across the solar system. Humanity's ultimate defense was more than a weapon. It was a living, breathing ecosystem of strategic potential. They thought they understood computational warfare, Maya muttered to Lieutenant Ramirez. They have no concept of what we've created. The quantum nodes began to demonstrate their true capability. Entire sections of the Karakun fleet found their most advanced weapon systems turning against themselves. Energy weapons would charge, only to redirect their fire with mathematical precision. Quantum disruption fields collapsed before they could fully form. Dr. Nakamura's voice crackled over the communication channel. Quantum cascade at 93.7% synchronization. They're completely locked out. What that Xarkun had considered their ultimate weapon of conquest was now nothing more than a complex mathematical problem to be solved. The human quantum network treated the entire alien fleet as nothing more than a complex algorithmic challenge, and it was solving that challenge with terrifying efficiency. The antimatter containment systems began to pulse, not as a threat, but as a demonstration. In the space of a single heartbeat, 3 uninhabited star systems ceased to exist, not destroyed through violence, but simply resolved, converted to pure energy with a precision that made traditional weapons look like crude hammers. Humanity had weaponized possibility itself, and the Xarkun were about to learn the most important lesson of their existence. When cornered, humans don't just fight. They redefined the very concept of conflict. The final assault came like a desperate symphony of destruction. Thousands of Xarkun battle groups, their internal communications shattered, their strategic cohesion dissolved, launched what they believed would be humanity's final extinction. They were wrong. Every missile, every energy weapon, every strategic maneuver was anticipated before it could even be conceived. The human quantum network transformed the entire solar system into a living, breathing defensive organism that treated the alien assault like nothing more than an intricate mathematical problem to be solved. Admiral Krelix of the Vornak battle group watched in mounting horror as his most advanced attack formations began to dissolve. Weapon systems that had conquered hundreds of civilizations simply failed, not through direct counterattack, but through a level of predictive strategy that defied computational logic. Targeting systems compromised, his tactical AI reported, its clinical tone unable to mask an underlying sense of existential dread. Entire squadrons found themselves fighting not just humanity, but their own reflections. Quantum-projected counter-strategies materialized faster than thought, neutralizing each attack with a precision that made traditional warfare look like primitive finger painting. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge of the ISS Defiance, her cybernetic eye tracking thousands of simultaneous engagement vectors. To an outside observer, she appeared calm. But beneath the surface, every neural pathway was engaged in the most complex strategic dance in galactic history. Quantum cascade at 97.4%. Lieutenant Ramirez reported, his voice a mixture of awe and professional detachment. The human response wasn't about destruction. It was about resolution. Each alien attack was not just prevented but transformed. Missile trajectories would suddenly bend, redirecting to neutralize other incoming threats. Energy weapons would dissipate into complex mathematical patterns that rendered them harmless. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the Europa Research Station, her fingers tracing holographic interfaces that pulsed with living computational energy. "They still don't understand," she murmured to Dr. Nakamura. "Warfare isn't about winning. It's about rendering conflict impossible." The XR-Con had built their galactic dominance on the principle of overwhelming force. They understood weapons, strategy, conquest, but they had never encountered a species that could weaponize possibility itself. Quantum entanglement nodes spread across the solar system began to pulse in a pattern that was simultaneously a defensive grid and a complex mathematical proof. Each pulse was a statement, a declaration that humanity's understanding of conflict transcended traditional warfare. "They're trying to comprehend our strategy," Maya said quietly, her quantum-enhanced awareness tracking millions of simultaneous computational threads. "But strategy implies an endpoint. We're showing them something else entirely." The assault continued, but it was no longer an attack. It had become a demonstration. The XR-Con were learning the most fundamental lesson about humanity. When cornered, humans don't just survive. They transform the very nature of the challenge. Across millions of kilometers, the solar system became a living computational weapon. Not through violence, but through an unprecedented understanding of potential itself. The real war was about to begin, and humanity had already won. The XR-Con collective began to disintegrate like a quantum wave collapsing under its own impossible complexity. What had once been an unbreakable alliance of galactic civilizations now trembled at the edges of complete dissolution. Strategic points around the solar system shifted with impossible precision. Hidden defense platforms emerged from quantum-locked states, revealing technologies so advanced they made the aliens' most sophisticated weapons look like primitive stone tools. Each platform was a living testament to humanity's generational preparation, not just a weapon, but a statement of potential. Admiral Katax of the Krelix battle group watched his carefully constructed fleet fall apart. The psychological warfare had been devastating, but this was something else entirely. Humanity wasn't just defending itself, it was systematically dismantling the very concept of galactic conflict. Collective integrity at 17.3%. His tactical systems reported, the clinical tone unable to mask the underlying terror. Some alien species began to withdraw, their survival instinct overriding the collective's previous unified purpose. Others prepared for what they believed would be a final desperate assault. But each movement was already anticipated, each strategy already neutralized before it could fully form. Captain Maya Chen's voice cut through the communication channels like a quantum blade. "This is your only warning." She broadcast across all alien frequencies. "We warned you not to corner a species with nothing left to lose." The message was more than words. It was a demonstration of a fundamental truth about humanity that the XR-Con had failed to understand. Humans didn't just adapt. They transformed the very nature of conflict itself. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the Europa Research Station as the quantum network began its final phase. Strategic points around the solar system weren't just revealing defensive capabilities. They were demonstrating an entirely new approach to interstellar existence. Quantum cascade reaching terminal synchronization. Dr. Nakamura reported, his voice a study in calculated calm. The hidden platforms were more than weapons. They were living computational ecosystems that could reshape entire sections of space-time with a precision that bordered on the miraculous. Energy fields materialized that could redirect entire battle groups, create localized time dilation zones, or simply resolve conflict through pure mathematical intervention. Lieutenant Ramirez turned to Captain Chen, a question forming in his eyes, but she was already ahead of him. "We're not just fighting," Maya said quietly, her cybernetic eye tracking millions of simultaneous computational threads. "We're offering them a choice." That Sarkhan Collective had built their galactic dominance on the principle of absolute control. They understood conquest, subjugation, the elimination of potential threats. Humanity was showing them something entirely different, a way of existing that transcended traditional concepts of conflict. Strategic points around the solar system began to pulse with a complex mathematical language. Not a threat, not a weapon, but a communication so profound it could reshape entire civilizations. The quantum network was speaking, and for the first time, the Xarchon were being forced to listen. Humanity had weaponized potential itself, and the galaxy would never be the same. Silence descended across the galaxy. It was a silence more profound than any weapon, more devastating than any battle formation. The quantum network that humanity had deployed wasn't just a defensive system. It was a living, breathing reset button for galactic civilization. Captain Maya Chen stood before the holographic representation of the fractured Sarkhan Collective, her cybernetic eye processing millions of potential communication scenarios simultaneously. The ultimatum would be precise, calculated, and unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. "We are offering you a choice." Her voice resonated across quantum communication channels, not of surrender, but of evolution. The proposal was breathtaking in its audacity. Humanity wasn't seeking revenge, conquest, or even traditional reparations. Instead, they were presenting a fundamental reimagining of interstellar cooperation. Each alien species received a tailored communication package, a precise combination of historical analysis, technological potential, and a roadmap for collective survival that went beyond traditional concepts of warfare and dominance. The quantum network didn't just communicate. It demonstrated potential futures with mathematical precision. For the energy-based Neurotalk, the proposal showed how their unique computational abilities could be integrated into a broader galactic research network that would unlock mysteries of quantum existence. The methane-breathing Vornak received blueprints for ecological restoration technologies that could revive dying planetary systems. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the Europa Research Station, her fingers tracing holographic interfaces that pulsed with living computational energy. "It's not about winning," she murmured to Dr. Nakamura. "It's about showing them a better way to exist." The hidden platforms around the solar system began to pulse, not as weapons, but as beacons of possibility. Each quantum node demonstrated technologies so advanced they appeared almost magical. Localized space-time manipulation, energy reclamation systems that could heal entire planetary ecosystems, communication networks that transcended traditional limitation. Admiral Katax of the Krellix Battle Group found himself confronting a fundamental truth. Humanity wasn't just offering survival. They were offering transformation. The quantum network showed each species their own potential, not as a threat, but as an invitation. Computational pathways revealed how their unique evolutionary characteristics could contribute to a broader galactic ecosystem. It wasn't conquest. It was collaboration on a scale never before imagined. "We are not your enemies," Captain Chen's voice continued. "We are a bridge to a future you haven't yet conceived." Lieutenant Ramirez looked at his captain, a mix of awe and understanding in his eyes. Humanity had turned certain defeat into an unprecedented opportunity for growth, for reimagining the very concept of interstellar existence. The Xarchon Collective, once the most feared force in the galaxy, now faced a choice that would redefine civilization itself. Surrender was irrelevant. Conquest was obsolete. What humanity offered was something far more dangerous. A chance to become something entirely new. As quantum communication channels pulse with potential, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity had not just survived. They had transformed the very concept of conflict, of existence, of potential itself. The real revolution was just beginning.